what's what? It's what's what? Welcome to What's What with Old Man Liver. You got your freaky favorite fucked up friend with you, and I got Mama Tess joining me today.
Hi, guys.
So we're going to continue doing our whole Pioneer Saloon reality podcast series where we discuss a different topic each week about the businesses we're involved in. And today's discussion, which I know is in a lot of people are interested
It's a very interesting topic.
is what is real versus folklore as far as the history of the saloon.
Yes.
So a lot of questions I get are, well, one of them is, was there really a poker game in 1915 where a guy was killed?
Yes, there was.
That can be factually, we have the historical data
Documents,
on that.
yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So we've got the county information.
We have the death certificate.
Death certificate.
We have
the coroner's
report, the articles that were written, many articles that were written about that entire scenario.
And that was, and you've done probably the most research on that situation. What was the actual scenario that happened?
So every bit of research that I've done, all of the articles that I have found was that Paul Koski came into the saloon, I think it was a Saturday morning in like June, and got involved in this poker game. And he was caught cheating by the dealer, Joe Armstrong. And Paul Koski was like a former boxer. He was known to be a belligerent drunk in the town. And he was a very aggressive, kind of mean human being from what all the accounts were. And on that day, when Joe Armstrong called him out on it, he lunged across the table and tried to choke Joe first. And that was when Joe pulled out his gun and first tried to hit him with it. And then when that didn't work, he shot him. So he ended up shooting him 3 different times, once through the hand. And then the next 2 shots were the fatal ones that actually killed him. So he laid dead on the floor for about 10 hours is what they estimated before the coroner could actually get here. When the coroner arrived, they did an impromptu trial for Joe Armstrong because back in 1915, if you had, what's the word I'm looking for?
The right scenario.
Yeah, the right scenario, you could shoot and kill someone for cheating at a game of cards or stealing your horse. And in this case, Joe Armstrong had the better reputation, and the other individuals that were in the bar at the time proved witness that he did it in self-defense. So that was all very interesting. But what got even more interesting was after the fact, Paul Koski's brother, who lived in Idaho at the time, was very upset to learn the word of his brother's passing and petitioned the governor of Nevada to reopen the case. So the marshals went out, found Joe Armstrong, brought him back to Vegas to stand trial for a second time, for which he was acquitted. So it was really interesting to see how they kind of handled those things.
That's kind of a double jeopardy thing.
It really was.
But ultimately he did get
he was acquitted,
off,
yes.
And it was an issue between states for a while that he was let off. But back then, your reputation mattered when it came to these kinds of things. So ultimately, he never did any jail time for that.
And it's reported that Paul Koski is buried in an unmarked grave in the Good Spring Cemetery.
And I think there might be
now
some
that might
truth
be
to that.
There may be some truth to that. There may not be. I don't know. There's not a whole lot of records about the burials that I've been able to find. So who knows?
Yeah, no, that's fascinating because that really happened, and it's a confirmed murder in the saloon, which when paranormal groups like Ghost Adventurers come out, they'll focus on that because it is legitimately a confirmed murder.
And we've had some very interesting paranormal investigations that we believe have involved Paul Koski.
Yeah.
There was one not that long ago, maybe a little over a year ago, that was done where a group was here and they were playing poker at that same poker table. And on the spirit box, it said something along the lines of "deal me in." And so they kind of played into this.
Oh, yeah, I remember
that. They didn't look at the hand until after they had been playing for quite some time. And it was really interesting because there were 4 aces in that hand. And there may have been.
Like, what are the chances?
Yeah, it was really,
that was Austin
really.
Alvarez and Brian Hopkins group that night.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So we'll have to pull some of that footage so you guys can see.
Yeah, so that's crazy.
But it was really interesting.
I want to cover that too about whether the saloon is haunted or not. Before we get to that, since we're on the topic of the poker game, a lot of people know about the 3 bullet holes along the wall, which the 3 would match what you said about having 3 shots fired. However, it is not for sure that those bullet holes were from the poker game, because there's multiple stories. In one case, obviously, it's from that they say the bullet holes were from those shots that were fired by Joe Armstrong. And then another case, they say that one of the previous owners in the Pioneer Saloon in the 60s got sick of people asking about it and just went and shot the
holes in the wall.
I don't know anyone that was around to confirm or
deny that.
But they're clearly decades old.
Yeah.
And I've had military people confirm they are
they're
bullet
legitimate
holes.
bullet holes, that's for sure.
The question is we just don't know where they're from.
Yeah.
Now, even if it's possible that the actual shooting took place in what is now the dining room of the saloon, which would imply that those bullet holes were from something else, but it would mean they're bullet holes here somewhere.
And there are.
Which
we know that there's holes.
Gordy's confirmed that there's bullet holes all around.
One of the other interesting things, though, is that the configuration of this bar has changed multiple times. And although there's no pictures or evidence, this is just what's been passed down, is that the bar itself was actually turned a different direction. And that it may have been more in this room and the other one than it's currently sitting at. So that's an interesting dynamic. Yeah. Also, to say that the structural integrity of this inside part of this decades ago may have existed very differently than how we know it today. So,
that's fascinating. So that we don't truly know where the bullet holes are from, but the poker game did happen
here,
and we can confirm that
for sure.
Another thing that people will ask about is the divots in the bar.
Yes.
There's the folklore that Clark Gable came to town when Carol Lombard had been in a plane crash, which that did happen. Her plane went down over here in Mount Potosi, right behind the saloon. And unfortunately, I believe 22 people on the plane were killed. And she was actually collecting war bonds because we had just entered World War II. And so she was out there trying to raise money for war bonds.
And this is another one that I've done a ton of research on because I think when a lot of this folklore was started about Carol Lombard and Clark Gable being here, you couldn't find a lot of this information as easily as you can now. And so spending a lot of time finding all these articles about what happened was really, really fascinating. She was on her way back from a war bonds tour. She was not supposed to fly. They were supposed to take a train, and Carol wanted to get back faster, so she flipped a coin with her mother, and that's how they decided to take a plane. And their route ended up not even being what was originally planned. At one point, they stopped, it was Albuquerque. Many of the passengers that were on that plane exited so that 15 soldiers could get on. And there's questions about the amount of luggage that was on the plane. One of the eyewitnesses that deplaned in Albuquerque had made a comment about how much luggage was actually on the plane itself. So there was lots of speculation around that. The plane needed to refuel, and that's why they landed here in Las Vegas. And so then there's lots of other speculation about how or why the plane actually crashed. Was it due to the beacons being turned off on top of the...
We did turn off the emergency beacons that normally those lights are on, but we were worried about an attack from the Pacific, from the Japanese. So that could have contributed to pilot error.
That's one of the speculations. The other one is the weight of the plane and whether or not it was properly accounted for and being able to actually make the ascent. So the interesting thing too was how the plane crash was actually reported. So the impact was so significant that the plane actually was embedded in the side of the mountain, and it was an instantaneous combustion. So it was a huge fireball, and actually another plane that was passing by is what saw it And that's how it initially got reported that something had exploded over the mountain range before they realized they lost communication with the plane and it never landed in LA.
And I know there's pieces still up there.
Pieces are still up there.
It's fairly remote, even though it's close from a stone's throw or whatever. But it's apparently extremely hard to get to.
Very difficult
But we've
to get
got
to.
a couple pieces back from the wreckage, one of which is on the back dining room wall, and another is melted piece of the plane that's on top of our potbelly stove in the main part of the saloon.
Yeah.
So
the other parts that were really fascinating about the story. So when Clark Gable got word that his wife's plane didn't land in LA, that's when he started to investigate, and he was then brought to Las Vegas. The reality of it is he never actually stayed in Good Springs during that time. And there's lots of documentation now that's available that kind of demonstrates his accounts for that time period.
Yeah, so the folklore is that he came to the saloon, waited for 3 days of word of his wife's situation, and he supposedly was smoking cigars and cigarettes and would fall asleep and burned the top of the bar, and people have since come and rubbed the burn marks so much there's divots. Now, the other story that someone else has, that those divots were caused by bikers in the 70s doing cocaine off the bar.
Yeah, they'd take their knife and dig it in.
And that's a cool story,
It is a cool story.
And
wouldn't surprise me either.
Right. But we have no factual evidence that Clark Gable sat at that bar for 3 days. We do know he came to Good Springs.
Yes, that we do know.
We have several people that are still alive. Eyewitness accounts of people we know that recall him coming to town, and they knew he waited a long time out in his car, either in front of the Pioneer Saloon or the Fail Hotel.
Right.
And so he did come to town, and he did use a friend of ours' aunt's phone, because at the time, apparently there were only 2 phones in town, and one was at the Hotel Fail, and the other one was at this person's house. And because phones were not as common back then. And so I don't think he sat at that bar for 3 days. Now, there is word that he and his wife, Carol Lombard, used to go and visit rural bars before all this happened, rural bars around Las Vegas.
Yeah, so there's a very good chance
a lot
that
of people think that they frequented here, or at least had been here, but it's unlikely he sat at the bar for 3 days, since all the accounts are he stayed in Las Vegas, but he did come to town.
And he did attempt to go up to the crash site multiple times.
Yeah, they wouldn't let him.
They wouldn't let him. So he was in his suit and his dress shoes and all these other things, and he was so distraught. All of those accounts are accurate, and that he attempted to go up to the crash site, that he wanted to try to be there for it, and that they kept sending him back, and that he did spend a significant amount of time mourning during that period of the 3 days he literally was in Vegas. So whether or not that ever involved being here at the saloon is still a little bit of unknown. And we do know that one of the rescue teams that attempted to go up there came from the town of Good Springs, and that they went up on burros because it was so difficult to access the space from here.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which was a really, really crazy account. And, the fact that everyone in that plane crash perished the way that they did was very tragic and very, very sad.
That's crazy. So we do, pay homage to their relationship, which was apparently a true love situation.
It was, because Clark Gable was married, I think, a total of 5 times in his life.
Oh, shit.
Yes.
I knew it was at least 3. I didn't know.
Yeah, I think it was 5, if I'm remembering this accurately. And Carol was his true love of his life. And upon Clark's passing, his wife at the time made sure that he was entombed next to Carol. Which is really that's pretty deep.
Yeah, that's a trooper.
That's a trooper,
a wife right
yes,
there.
For sure.
And another thing people ask is if the saloon is really haunted. Now we're going to have a whole nother episode that we get into the paranormal investigations of the things, but would you say that most of the employees here would say that the saloon is haunted? I
would say that yes, definitively. And they would also those that are skeptical, I think, have been converters.
Yeah.
I didn't have a whole lot of, experiences outside of the saloon in my own personal life until but I've had lots
Yeah.
of things that I can't explain. And you and I try to debunk stuff. Like,
Oh yeah, and even the paranormal investigations we do here, we do our best to debunk. We try not to, let someone come in and kind of exaggerate or
Right.
make a noise seem like it came from
Right.
somewhere else when it's something obvious. But we, after we acquired the saloon, they're down the street. We fell in love with Good Springs and bought a house down the
Yep.
street, which is actually even older than the saloon itself. Unfortunately, it's since burned down. I like to think the ghosts maybe put out the fire rather
Right.
than start it. But we had even more haunted stuff at our house down the
Definitely.
street. So, and what I tell people is like, whether you believe in ghosts or not, there is stuff that has happened here that I
It's
cannot explain.
very difficult to explain.
And there's an energy, some people really attune to it. When they lock in and their arms stick up and they can feel everything, but I'd say even if you're not, you don't have a psychic background or something, there's stuff that people
I've
can't
almost
explain.
lost track of the number of stories that we have.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So,
And just from us.
just from
not-
our own
not to
accounts
mention
and our
everyone
own
else's.
experiences. Yeah. And so to incorporate everyone else's is you literally could fill a very thick book with the number of accounts that people have had. But should we talk a little bit about what some of those hauntings are around and the folklore and the stories that surround them?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Because
I think there's some fun.
that's part of the history
it's part of the
of-
history and the lore. And one of the stories is about the little boy Mikey, who is one of the spirits that's alleged to be here that's a child. Somewhere between, what do we say, 8 to 10 is generally what we get back during these paranormal experiences. But he's known to be a little fun, a little mischievous. But the story behind him is that he was the son of a prostitute in the town, and he died on a well here on the property. Not in any of the wells that we have open or any of the long. I just need to disclaim that. Like,
Right.
this would be an abandoned well that doesn't exist here anymore. But that's the story. And we don't know if that's factual or not. I've done all the research I possibly can on census records from dating as far back as they exist for Good Springs. And I've not found any account or even in any of the, unfortunately, there was only about a 10-year span that there was a newspaper here in Good Springs, and there was really no account for any of those types of things. And it's very likely that if he was the child of a prostitute in town, that they were undocumented in terms of ever being accounted for in a census or being on any property records or even employment records for that matter. So
Now,
it's
we
a
also
little...
did research on Ruby, who's another name of a ghost that's out
Ruby
there in
Barnes
the media.
is the name that everyone claims.
Right, which we
to be.
debunked that
Yes.
because there is a Ruby Barnes that's in the cemetery.
But that's not the same one.
But she died in the 1980s.
There were actually 5 rubies, though, that were
Yeah, so there
documented
could
to
have
have
been.
lived here in the
Right.
town of Good Springs, but none of them would have been of the right age because several of them were children at the time
Right.
of when this alleged...
There was like a rape and murder in the
rape and
women's
murder.
bathroom that people talk about.
I think it was somewhere on property, and she's just heard to have been crying in the bathroom. There's just a couple different takes on it.
so we can't confirm that anything violent happened with someone named Ruby in the
Right.
bathroom, but
But
it is
that bathroom
the
is a hot
bathroom
spot.
is a hot spot. It's just like this booth back here in the dining room behind us. The women's bathroom, a lot of things happen there.
Yep.
So to me, it's one of the spots
It
that
is. Agreed.
no matter whether we can confirm a historical happening or not, it's people that don't even know those stories have a lot of occurrences.
Well,
in
and the
that
other one
bathroom.
that's hard to prove, but gets a lot of traction from people is Mr. Butterfield.
Oh, yes.
And that was a former, was he a bartender, I think was what they said, and that he committed suicide behind the bar, and that he shot himself. So that is a big piece of folklore. We've not been able to find any historical records whatsoever that a Mr. Butterfield ever lived in the town of Good Springs, worked in the town of Good Springs, but it doesn't mean that he didn't exist and that it didn't happen.
No.
Especially since there is a very large gap of time where the previous owners and before Papa Don came in to ownership, what actually occurred in this bar at that time.
That's
Because
right.
that also covers Prohibition, that covers World War II.
Right. And from my understanding, there's a lot of deaths that have occurred on the property.
Absolutely.
Even just natural,
Yeah.
previous owner that lived on the property that passed away. Someone had a heart attack at the end of a bar years ago.
Yeah.
So there's multiple occurrences, which makes sense. We have 113
Yeah.
or so years of
14 years
history.
now,
Something
almost.
in there.
I'm losing track.
And so it makes sense that we've had a lot of occurrences on the property. And if any place is going to be haunted, it's going to be the Pioneer Saloon
Right.
out here in the desert outside of Las Vegas. So that most people that spend time on the property would probably tell you they believe that the saloon is haunted.
Yeah.
Any other stories that people ask about that we can confirm, except for the poker game that may or
How
may
you
not have
acquired
happened?
the saloon?
And that's the one thing.
That one will go down in infamy.
That people we can leave a little.
we'll leave a little bit of
a mystery on that
Yeah,
one.
I agree.
Especially with legal liability and things like that. And,
yeah.
So that's it. If you have any, I always tell people come to the bar during the week when it's slower.
Our team
and
has,
our team loves to tell some of these stories and stuff, and a lot of them have been here for many years.
Right.
And got great stories both historically and with celebrities and with films and TV shows, but also
Right.
the folklore and ghosts and all that kind of good stuff too. So,
And also, we have plenty of opportunities for paranormal investigation. So if people want to come out, we do Spirits with Spirits
And
quite
Good
a lot
Screams.
throughout the year. And then in the fall, we host a festival called Good Screams, which is all about the paranormal. And we talk a lot about what's going on here, and we allow some pretty exclusive investigations to take place. So
last time we
if
had
you're into this
some
thing,
of the stars
yeah.
of Ghost Adventures with us, and it's a lot of fun. But we'll, if you're interested in the paranormal side, stay tuned for an episode we have coming up with that. But in the meantime, thank you for tuning in with Mama Tess and Old Man Liver.
Woota.
It's what? It's what?